The snow lay thick across the Eastern European landscape. Small villages were abandoned, silent under the weight of winter. Inside a hidden command post, officers whispered about a that was never written. Every decision carried immense risk. Every movement depended on memory alone. Inside the cold, dimly lit room of a secluded command post, officers huddled over rough maps and scraps of fabric. The air was tense. Every sound outside could signal danger. Outside the walls, the world was fractured. Armies were stretched thin. Supply lines were broken. Entire villages had been emptied. In this fragile environment, some orders could not be put on paper. The that guided them existed only in memory. Leaders feared that written documents would fall into enemy hands. Each officer carried a piece of the plan, memorized word for word. They moved supplies quietly. Troops shifted positions without knowing the full strategy. Even routine instructions were colored by secrecy. The local population noticed small changes. A cart left behind one day would vanish the next. Soldiers moved silently through forests and empty streets. Occasionally, the distant sound of artillery reminded everyone that the war beyond the hills had not paused. Yet inside the post, time moved differently. Conversations were whispers. Maps were drawn and erased repeatedly. Each officer calculated outcomes in their head. Decision-making was fraught. Preemptive strikes, strategic withdrawals, and concealed reinforcements were debated quietly. Every contingency had to be accounted for. A misstep could cost lives. A forgotten detail could undo weeks of preparation. No one documented the choices. Only memory kept the plan alive. Officers rotated duties. One memorized troop movements. Another tracked supply routes. A third handled intelligence from local villagers. Coordination depended entirely on trust. Each man knew that a single error could unravel the entire strategy. Snow muffled movement outside, but inside, the weight of responsibility pressed down heavily. Occasionally, officers paused and listened. Footsteps, distant voices, or the creak of a door could indicate the enemy was near. They adapted silently. Small corrections were relayed in hushed tones. They remained unwritten, but it shaped every action. Its presence was invisible, yet powerful. Even when brief moments of rest came, officers could not relax. They reviewed routes, considered alternatives, and rehearsed contingencies in their minds. Every detail mattered. Every word remembered could mean the difference between survival and catastrophe. Outside, the winter continued to bite. Inside, a hidden governed life and death. Days passed, and the tension inside the command post grew. Outside, the enemy advanced faster than expected. Patrols moved through forests and along snow-covered roads. Messages from the front lines were delayed or lost. The officers could not rely on written orders. Every adjustment depended on memory, trust, and careful observation. Responsibilities were divided. One officer oversaw troop movements. Another monitored supply caches. A third handled intelligence from locals. Each man carried crucial pieces of the full plan existed nowhere but in their minds. Any mistake could expose the strategy and cost lives. Night after night, briefings were held in low light. Officers used gestures, code words, and scraps of maps to communicate. Each instruction had to be memorized immediately. Fatigue weighed heavily, but they could not allow lapses. They dictated every action, though it was never written. Its power grew with each decision. The soldiers on the ground sensed something unusual. Units moved in ways that seemed illogical without knowing the hidden plan. Small groups vanished into forests. Others appeared where none were expected. Whispers of secret orders spread among the ranks. Officers tolerated questions but gave no explanations. The unseen guided everything. Unexpected complications arose. One detachment failed to reach its assigned location. Enemy scouts appeared along a route previously considered secure. The officers improvised. Adjustments were communicated verbally, sometimes shouted across snowfields, sometimes whispered through closed doors. Every change had to be committed to memory instantly. The plan evolved with the day. The winter forest became a maze of movement and observation. Maps were redrawn on scraps of paper. Chalk lines were erased and retraced. Officers memorized every detail. Calculations were done mentally, cross-checked with gestures and nods. Supplies were moved silently. Though unwritten, controlled every maneuver. Locals watched without understanding. Shadows moved among abandoned buildings. Snow crunched under unseen footsteps. Smoke from fires barely rose in the cold air. Officers weighed risks constantly. The enemy could strike at any moment. Yet the plan held, invisible but precise. By midweek, the full complexity of the operation was clear. Multiple units had shifted positions without the enemy noticing. Supply lines were adjusted. Flanking routes were prepared. Every element of the remained hidden, dependent entirely on human memory. One lapse could undo everything, but each officer carried the burden without faltering. Through nights of frost and days of silence, the hidden continued to guide the Eastern Front. Actions were coordinated, yet invisible to anyone outside the command post. The strategy advanced in shadows, shaping outcomes with precision, though no paper would ever record it. The weight of decisions pressed on every officer, and the unseen remained the only force keeping their fragile plan alive. The morning was gray and silent. Fog clung to the valleys. Soldiers moved cautiously through snow-covered paths. The enemy approached the mountain pass, confident and unobservant. None suspected the hidden. Inside the command post, officers coordinated movements in whispers and gestures. Every signal mattered. A torch flickered in a window. A faint whistle echoed across the snow. Units shifted, merged, and vanished into forests. The plan depended on precise timing. Though never written, controlled every step. Suddenly, a misstep occurred. A small detachment strayed from its assigned path. Enemy scouts noticed the absence of expected resistance. Gunfire erupted. Officers reacted immediately, shouting orders and improvising adjustments. Every change had to be memorized and executed perfectly. The skirmish spread. Soldiers fought briefly to mislead the enemy. Others withdrew silently. Snow stained with mud and blood marked the ground. Confusion raged for minutes, yet the larger strategy continued. The unrecorded preserved the main line of defense. Despite chaos, critical positions were maintained. Casualties were inevitable. Some units were lost entirely. Officers carried the weight of decisions with no written proof. Soldiers' names would vanish from records. Villages abandoned in preparation for strategic withdrawal remained empty. The cost was high, but the plan succeeded in its purpose. The enemy was delayed, diverted, and misled. By midday, the forested hills were quiet again. Units regrouped in hidden positions. Officers reviewed movements and recalculated contingencies. Every order had been spoken, remembered, and enacted. No paper would acknowledge the effort. The never written had shaped the outcome entirely. As the fog lifted, the extent of the losses became clear. Some paths led to nowhere. Footprints disappeared into snowdrifts. Abandoned weapons and scattered gear marked the places where men had fallen or vanished. The winter forest held the silence of memory alone. The officers understood the impact. Entire sections of the front had been stabilized without leaving a trace. Yet history would see only empty snowfields and silent forests. Those who survived carried the burden of knowledge, but the unrecorded would not appear in reports. Its truth existed only in minds that would eventually fade. By evening, the command post was empty. Soldiers had moved to new positions. Officers prepared to leave. Its purpose fulfilled, dissolved into memory. No acknowledgement awaited it. No monument. Only the quiet snow remained, covering the traces of movement and sacrifice. The climax of the operation had passed. The unseen had guided life and death decisions. It had prevented disaster. It had cost lives. And yet, it would remain invisible to history, known only to those who had carried it in silence through the snow and fog. Winter ended. The snow melted slowly over empty villages. Footprints vanished. Roads that once carried soldiers were silent. Only remnants of broken carts and scattered supplies remained. The secret order that had guided movements and decisions disappeared with the officers who carried it. Soldiers moved on to other assignments. Officers were reassigned or sent home. Nothing recorded the details of their actions. Maps were burned or left behind. Orders existed only in memory. Those who knew the plan could not share it. Memories faded with time. The villages returned to a fragile calm. Roofs caved under snow. Windows remained broken. Locals came back, but they could not piece together what had happened. The paths once traveled by soldiers led to nothing. Forests reclaimed roads. Tracks in the snow vanished. The hidden order became invisible. Years later, scattered notes appeared in archives. Fragments of maps, smudged papers, and scribbled directions hinted at something lost. Historians could reconstruct some events, but the full strategy remained unknowable. Names of units vanished. Outcomes could be guessed, not verified. The true order had no record. Silence grew where commands once moved men. Empty hills, abandoned houses, and quiet forests marked the spaces of vanished soldiers. The decisions that had saved lives left no trace. The winter operation, critical and precise, existed only in memory. Those who carried it were gone. The hidden order was gone with them. Time passed. The war moved on. Villages were rebuilt, roads cleared, but the past retained its quiet weight. The actions guided by the invisible order left no proof. Only shadows remained. Footsteps disappeared. Snow drifted over the places where lives had shifted fate. History remembered fragments. Whispers persisted in old letters or recollections of the few who survived. Yet the full plan, its risks, its improvisations, and the lives it touched were gone. Forgotten. The secret order, never written, shaped events and vanished with them. The forest and villages fell silent again. Snow covered all. The human cost, the unseen strategy, and the invisible order remained hidden. Only emptiness and memory endured. If this story mattered to you, consider subscribing. More forgotten history is coming.